I'm Steve Baker McKee. I'm a lawyer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I work at Babs, Callen, Clemens & Zomner, about a 65-lawyer firm in the Pittsburgh area primarily. And I am one of the co-authors of the Federal Civil Rules Handbook, which we've been working on for about 15 years now.
Hi, I'm Professor Bill Jansen from the Charleston School of Law in Charleston, South Carolina. I joined the faculty of the law school after about 20 years of practice.
One of the things that we wanted to talk about today was the amendments to the federal rules that are set to go into effect December 1st. These are dramatic, sweeping amendments that the likes of which we have not seen ever in the history of the rules. Literally every rule is being revised. Some of the revisions are substantive, some are organizational where they're moving one part to another subpart within a rule or even a different rule, and some are stylistic, but literally every rule is being revised.
The rules were first enacted in 1938, and in the years that have passed since 1938, some of the rules have been revised and changed and updated, but never have every single rule been changed in 1 year. This is that year.
The reason that they've done the amendments this year, these sweeping amendments, is really to address some of the revisions over the years that Bill was talking about, because the rules were amended piecemeal, different sections have been amended at different times, the language doesn't track, and a lot of language is sort of arcane and obsolete now, and so these amendments in large part are designed to make the rules more usable, more clear, and easier to understand.
But the rules have always been familiar. One of the things that every lawyer is familiar with are the rules of civil procedure. We worry about what our clients' needs are. We do our research to determine how best to answer their questions. But at the end of the day, the rules were the stable factor. Everybody knew them, they were familiar, and everybody used them from a familiarity that might span 15, 20, 30 years. This year, these changes represent an unsettling development and an opportunity for lawyers to relearn what they had been using and learning for the past 20 or 30 years.
The interesting thing about these amendments is how little they are understood and how little the bar in general is aware of these amendments. Our experience has been when you talk to lawyers in even large, sophisticated law firms, they're completely unaware that these amendments are coming. So they're initially very surprised and then followed immediately by sort of a panic, because as Bill mentioned, lawyers are very much in their comfort zone with the rules that they've grown up with and they've used for years and years. The idea that every single rule has changed is terrifying to a litigator.
And lawyers, by their nature, want the answers. They research for the answers, they depose witnesses for the answers, they go to court trying to deliver the answers. And one of the things with these changes that this book represents is a roadmap to some of those answers. The book outlines every change that has been made to the rules, flags where those changes are, if there's been a movement within the rule of part to part. The roadmap identifies that for practitioners. It is, in a way, the big comfy blanket to help orient lawyers to a very dramatic period of change and give them comfort that when they go into court, they're ready.
Without something like that roadmap or what we've been talking about, the dangers really are there for the practicing lawyers. Certainly the substantive changes are fairly self-evident. If you're not aware of a substantive change, you could really get yourself in trouble. But even the stylistic changes are very significant. The reorganization alone poses a huge risk that if you cite to a provision where it used to be located and it has changed, you'll be obviously citing to the wrong provision. Even the language changes are critical because some of the terminology has changed. And so if you cite a rule or quote a rule to a court using the obsolete terminology, again, you're going to look unprepared and you're going to look like you haven't kept up and you're not up to the minute.
And the restyling also creates an opportunity. One of the things that lawyers always emphasize in their practice is the language of the rules. With the changes in the language of the rules, although they are intended to be largely stylistic, they represent tremendous opportunities both for lawyers to advocate that the direction of the federal rules have changed, as well as subtle differences in how those rules ought to be emphasized. In the end, these changes represent opportunities for lawyers creative enough to use them and devastating risks for lawyers not prepared and not oriented, as Steve said, to what they are.